CinematicCritic coming at you again. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time where I've actually shot the review and it's been raining outside my car, so if you hear the noise, that's what that is. It is Thursday night, and very much like I will be doing with Star Wars, I have actually just seen Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 2. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this. As I have said before, I didn't love the books. I never read the first book. I saw the first movie. I read the second book and the third book because I couldn't wait for the movies to come out, just like I did with Harry Potter. Except I read those books before the movies came out. And let me tell you that I personally did not like the books because they made Katniss seem like a whiny little girl. And I was like, this is not the Katniss that I saw in the first movie. And I think that sort of became a problem in the second movie. When Katniss, having read the book at books 2 and 3, or listened to them audio tape unabridged, having have done that, I saw her in the second movie as a whiny little girl. And I know many people are going to hate me for that, but that's what I saw her as. And I did not want to see her as that for the record. Now, in the third movie, Mockingjay Part 1, to the movie's credit, it actually did a decent job of making a, like, no, this is girl power, or whatever you want to call it. She is still a strong character. You know, I don't know what, it was basically a slap in the face, like, I don't know what you got for the books, but this is the character who Katniss is supposed to be, and I was relieved to see that return in Mockingjay Part 2. With a few exceptions. Now, one problem that I had with the whole series as a whole is I never fully understood the ending. Could have gone back, read it a second time. I never understood the whole thing with Mutts. I mean, I kind of understood it, but this movie definitely clarified things for me. I mean, I kind of knew what the ending was, but this movie definitely put everything in perspective, and I now at last feel like I have the answer. And what I thought was actually a bad ending in the book, or not a bad ending, but not a great ending in the book, was actually, you know, if it's the same in the book as it is in the movie, which I believe it is, now that I understand the ending, which I'll get to in a little bit, it's like, oh, see, that's actually good. Now, we will get to story in a minute, but first, let's talk about the characters. I think Peeta has the best character in this movie. And rather than going through all the actors and listing their names tonight, just check the description. The main actors I usually put as keywords. We're just going to go by names, because it's actually very late. I saw this late movie. Anyway, so getting into the characters, I definitely think Peeta was the strongest character tonight. Not necessarily the best acting job, but I feel like he sort of was the driving factor of the story. Not Katniss, although there were moments where she was very core to the story. I feel like Peeta was the driving factor. Definitely Gale. Gale was a lot more useful in this movie than he had been in the past movies, and he was also a lot more useful than in the book, if I remember correctly. Haymitch, you don't see Haymitch as much. You don't see the fashion lady as much in this. See them a little bit. There are a couple of other characters in the first 30 minutes, like the name escapes me. The girl with her hair is they shaved off. I'm sorry for not knowing her name, but basically, you know, she's I would remember her name if she was in it for more than 2 minutes, but she's not. Skip to the ending for just a minute before I talk about the whole plot. Why was it ultimately clarified for me? Because President Snow actually tells Katniss that, and what I took from the book was that President Snow tricks Katniss into killing the head of District 13. I thought it was a trick, uh, but now I'm starting to wonder if that's the case. Because the movie makes it out to be like the lady from District 13 who heads up District 13 is basically just another Snow. One thing that's never said in the movie, or I don't think even in the book, is whether or not they go ahead and have the 76 Hunger Games as like a final symbolic Hunger Games to and put only capital kids in it. My assumption is no, but that's only my assumption. It's never clarified in either the movie or, like I said, I think the book, because I don't remember that being clarified in the book. But I think that was a great idea to actually, the way the movie presented it is it presented her as another President Snow. It's like, yay, the rebels won, now we're gonna take over and rule, basically. Oh yeah, I'll be an interim president. How long's an interim president, says Haymitch. Oh, uh, just until everything calms down. Yeah, that's code for a long time. So to have Katniss first shoot that lady was actually, I think, a good idea for both the plot, for the final like character developments, and they do say that Katniss will eventually be pardoned for that, and well, she should, because I just think that was brilliant and finally clarified the ending for me from the book. It's like, ugh, I just love that end. But let's talk about some that I have to go here. I'm a critic. Let's talk about some of the things this movie did wrong. Great plot, decent characters in most cases. Like I said, I loved Peeta. By the way, if I said Peter earlier, that was my mistake. It's Peeta. Katniss. Loved Gale. There's this one cheetah lady in it, or some cat, and ugh. This movie had moments, let's put it that way. Moments of good, moments of bad. Like that cheetah lady, was that necessary? I mean, I know it was in the book, but did you have to make her look like a mannequin? And then there were the moments where, like, Katniss gets home and, spoiler alert, Prim has died, and I totally forgot about that in the book, but that's now going to be etched in my head watching her die. Oh my god. And I think what ultimately got me was how District 13 ultimately attacked the Capitol towards the end there, getting and by dropping support packages that were actually bombs. And all these people that were gathered together right outside Snow's mansion all die, including some medical people like Prim. But I digress. What was bad about this movie was its execution. Very, very fast. Very fast execution. Quick scenes, I know, and then other scenes seem to drag on, like the scene where Finnick dies. Not particularly when Finnick dies, but before he dies. Being chased by the Mutts. Kind of goes on a little while. The whole scene, leading up to that, being chased by, and then they just sort of glance over Finnick's death in a minute. Finnick died. That's it. They're going to give him, what, literally a minute? I get they're in a chase scene, but another scene I still have a bit of an issue with is the ink scene where, I believe it's ink, it could be venom, whatever that blacky, liquidy stuff is, chasing them. Or as I'm going backwards a little bit. But I'm basically trying to identify which scenes were a little too long and which scenes were a little too short and which scenes worked out. I think this movie definitely picked up towards the end. During the end, the scenes seem to solidify in length. They seem to be more on point. They seem to convey the message, the portion that they were trying to send, and move on to the next scene. That's great. The beginning was a little bit too fast for me. It was like, now this, now this, now this, now this, now we're going to tap the Capitol. What? Okay. A little bit fast there. I get that there was a part one, but still. A little bit too fast there. The other thing was the beginning with the beginning with Peeta in that. I get he's still under the tracker jacker venom, but still, that could have been executed a little better. Now, as far as the attack goes on the Capitol, when they do finally start it, we don't really see, after that point, any more of these videos that Katniss is supposed to be shooting. So I think there's a little bit of a miss there, and they may have done that in the what do you call it? They may have done that in the book too. Let's see. A couple of the scenes between Gale and Peeta that I liked. Really, I'm having kind of a hard time trying to say hard things about this movie. The only thing is, like I said, some of the scenes moved very fast in some of the scenes. Very few of the scenes dragged slow. But when they did, they dragged slow. Like, super slow. Let's see, what's an example? That one with Finnick's death wasn't super bad. I think a lot of it was like the filler scenes where leading up to, I would say, the Venom or Ink flood seemed to be a little long when they finally got into the Capitol. And after they're in this, after they get the first mandatory view in from President Snow, like, haha, the Mockingjay is dead, and he and District 13 don't know that actually. No, she's very much alive. So, all in all, what does this movie come out to? I think it was executed, and honestly, I do think it was the best of the four. And that's saying something, because I did like the third one, and I loved the first one. I really wanted to give this a 9, but the fact it does come down to is, despite its some fast scenes and some slow scenes, and there were hiccups in execution here or there, to pick just one, let's see here. There are a couple. Give me a second to think of what I think the best mis-execution is. I think it would just have to, honestly, I think it would have to be the whole first 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes kind of gets you in the mood like, oh no, please don't let this be another bad movie. And then over the next 30 minutes, it's like, oh well, maybe there's a chance for this movie. And over the next 30 minutes, it's like, oh well, there's definitely a chance for this movie. And over the final 30 minutes, it's like, oh well, that was actually pretty good. So this movie kind of dips in attention and gets it back. It's better to have your attention at the end than it is at the beginning, in my opinion. As long as you don't fall asleep like I have in some movies. Mission Impossible. No, but this was actually a very good movie that I would actually give, since started, folks, I have not given a 10 since restarting my review, and I honestly feel like, this could be a movie that I give a 10. Alright, I want to try to shoot for 5 more minutes. You can feel free to stop watching now, but I'm going to see if I can say anything more for 5 more minutes about the movie. Let's see, we've got the acting is out of the way. The story, of course, you all know the story if you've read the book. If you haven't read the book, you don't necessarily have to have... I mean, like I said, I was a little confused by the ending of the book. Definitely recommend the movie. I would say this is one of the cases where the movie is better than the book. Don't hate me for that. In my opinion, the movie is better than the book because Katniss is not a whiny little girl like, in my opinion, the book makes her out to be. She's definitely strong in this. That one scene where she kills the lady from District 13 is still stuck in my head, and it's like brilliant. And I get that this is all coming from a book, but I feel like this is a screenplay written for this movie. And if you look at it, it actually said in the credits, adaptation by Suzanne Collins. Now it says adaptation by Susan Collins, but if you don't know, Susan Collins is the one who wrote the book. So, this is one of those cases where the person who wrote the movie also wrote the book. So you'd better believe that it's going to be good. See, when you keep people from the original source material on, is when you get good movies. Like Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling was involved with that. When you do something like The Last Airbender, where M. Night Shyamalan gets nobody from the original writing team of Avatar The Last Airbender, then you get some crap like Avatar The Last Airbender. I mean, like, The Last Airbender. And in case you don't know about that, just don't look up The Last Airbender. It's so disappointing. Do look up Avatar The Last Airbender. Do watch that. That's a great show. But it's movie adaptation, not. And I've actually talked about that before in my adaptations review. But I would go so far as to say this is one of the times where it is a successful adaptation. That's because Susan Collins is involved. So even if I'm so the problem that a lot of people are going to have with me, the negatives of the review is, oh, of course it was fast. It's a movie. Well, I would actually say that the book was kind of slow. So to split into 2 movies, I get it. And I do not want to have to defend myself to readers of the book. I did read the 3rd book. Oh, but you didn't read the 1st book. Okay, I didn't read the 1st book, but I read the 2nd and I read the 3rd book. And I saw the 1st movie, and my brother told me that I didn't have to read the 1st book. I'm pretty sure I got the gist from the 2nd and the 3rd book of how the story was supposed to be told. And I would say that it was done rather successfully, so yes, I am going to give this movie a 10. Does it get the 11? No. Because as I've said, there are some execution errors in this. Really, the only nitpick that I've been able to grab so far, though, is that it's got a bit of a fast beginning, the ending, and I just feel like the ups outweighed the downs in this movie big time. Is this a movie that I would purchase? Maybe. No promises, but maybe. I did buy the 1st one. I actually have it on digital. I didn't buy the 2nd one. I didn't buy Mockingjay Part 1, but like this one, maybe. It all comes down to this. Were you a fan of the book? Because if so, you are going to be a fan of this movie. Everything from the book that's important is in here, and it's executed brilliantly, despite, as I've said, a couple of moments here or there. Characters, and you can definitely get, even if you read the book, even if you think you know everything, seeing it on the screen, in my opinion, is just another way to experience it. It's a great way to. So if you're even considering going to see this movie and you've read the book, just go. I'm CinematicCritic, and I'm signing off for now. Check out my other videos, subscribe, thanks.